Welcome to the Better with Age podcast. I'm your host today, Galen Wetzel. Today's episode is sponsored by the Better with Age program, where we empower women to reclaim their health and vitality through expert-guided exercise and nutrition. This 20-month program teaches women how to safely build bone density, strength, muscle mass, improve their gut health, sleep, and overall life quality. If you're interested in learning more, visit www.betterwithage.online. Today's guest is Dr. Sonja Murray. She is a doctor of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, a registered nurse, and founder of Wild Integrative Health. You can learn more about Dr. Murray at www.wildintegrativehealth.com. Our conversation today is all about acupuncture and ways that modality can help us all get better with age. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the Better with Age podcast, Sonja. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Galen. I'm excited.
So maybe we should just start off with, you've had a little bit of a winding journey from a career in nursing and then getting into acupuncture. Tell us maybe how you went from that transition from nursing into acupuncture, and what was really the catalyst that made you want to explore acupuncture as a modality to help people?
So yeah, I mean, looking 5 years back, I had no idea I would be where I am today. It kind of fell into my lap. I started my nursing career at the Mayo Clinic in pediatrics, and so I was on a unit that saw 73 plus specialties. So it was a little bit of everything. And I always had a passion for caring for others and especially preventative health. I think I just kind of grew up in that mindset that you would always take care of yourself so that you wouldn't get sick. My mom was a nurse, so that was kind of ingrained in us. And I kind of just quickly realized that that type of nursing was not really what I envisioned it to be. We were putting a lot of Band-Aids on. I'll tell you, one night I was caring for oncology kids and I was working a night shift and I had a child that was just super hungry, had just gotten admitted, and literally my choices to give them were white bread and Jello. And I was like, it didn't feel aligned. So I was looking for holistic nursing positions, but at that time, most of them were very policy pushing. So I would have been sitting behind a desk or fighting with, getting integrative services into a hospital setting. And I just wanted to be doing the work, like the hands-on work myself. And so I kind of gave up on the pursuit for a while and just kind of kept going with where I was at. And a friend actually recommended I try acupuncture because I was working lots of nights and not sleeping. So I had heard of acupuncture. It was just never on my horizon. And so I had a treatment to help with sleep. And I realized right away, I was like, oh, this exists, a whole system of medicine that is preventative. It's looking at you in relationship to your environment. It was everything I was looking for. And I'm not going to joke, I got off the table the first treatment and I looked at my acupuncturist and I was like, how do I do this? This is what I meant to do. And so it was a quick 180. 3 months later, we sold our house and we moved from Rochester up to the cities. And I started a graduate program at Northwestern Health Sciences University. And 3.5 years later, finished the program. I got on a plane and I went to Japan and I did some additional training there because I really thought I wanted to be immersed in the culture because that's a big aspect of the medicine. And so I went to Japan, I went to Vietnam, I had some amazing experiences. I came home and I opened my clinic. I just dove right in and yeah, I haven't looked back since. It's changed my life. It's changed how I care for my family, my children. And so I'm obviously very passionate about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you and I are the lucky ones in the world in the sense that we had a calling, something that really spoke to us. And it's almost like you can't not do it once you find that area of passion in your life. So I appreciate that you not only heard that call, but you followed it too, because that's a scary thing to stop what you're doing and really make a big shift and dove right into opening up your own clinic. So I really commend you for that and appreciate that. So let's dive right into acupuncture. So let's start with, What's the general theory or model behind how it works?
Yeah, so first I'll start by saying that acupuncture is just one modality of traditional Chinese medicine, but it's obviously, in my opinion, one of the most potent, but also most recognized, right? And so acupuncture is the insertion of sterile needles into the body that are, I say they're more like a whisker. They're like really thin
Mm,
wires. So they're different than a hypodermic needle. But what they do is when they go into the body from a Chinese medicine perspective, they they manipulate or modulate the movement of qi throughout our body. So qi, spelled Qi, it's our vital life force. And so it's energy, but it's how our body utilizes energy. So I always like to start by saying qi is it directs the movement of cells within our body. So if we think we get a cut on our finger, Qi is going to direct those cells to rebuild themselves. So they'll take the collagen and elastin and realign it so that we heal our cut. Qi also manipulates how we feel within our body. This is different than how we see it in Western medicine. So let's say you get upsetting news and you get like a pit in your throat, or you get butterflies in your stomach. That's all the direction of Qi and how it changes the physiology within our body. Now, in acupuncture, when the needles go in, they're like antennas. And so they're looking to harmonize the chi within our body. So there could be points in where we have excess. So let's say you go to take a deep breath and you have this like the stuck feeling over your chest, right? So there's stuck energy there. And so the chi will help rebalance. And so you can usually I'll notice on the table right away, someone will take a deep breath or a sigh because it relaxes that. Now, it also helps build up deficiencies. So, I work with a lot of postpartum moms, and in that time, you're naturally in a state of deficiency. You used a lot of chi and a lot of blood through pregnancy and labor. And so, it'll help bring in and kind of utilize the resources you have in your body to build up those systems. So, it moves chi, but it also balances our blood. It balances the temperature within our body. If we think of like the yin yang theory, and it also supports our organ systems, which are our physical organs, but also kind of the wisdom behind our organs, their emotions, associated characteristics. So that's kind of a long answer, but it does a lot, which is really exciting. And
yeah,
then
I
I was gonna say
I think that's great. Yeah. Go
from
ahead.
a biomedical lens too, just so you understand it from more of a Western perspective, it also modulates our nervous system. So it increases circulation, it decreases inflammation, it stimulates our endorphins. And so a lot of people just feel really good when they get off the table. They're like, I don't know what you did to me, but I like it. And that's just because we're able to use our body's innate healing abilities and just give ourselves a break from the hustle to kind of recollect. So
If people
that's
haven't tried it
experience.
before and maybe are nervous about needles, does it hurt?
Yes. So great question. And it depends, I'll say that. So every technique is a little different. So the goal really when you're needling is to get past the pain receptors and to not feel the initial poke. And so, but there are different parts of the body that are more sensitive. And so, for instance, if you have a sore throat, there's a really helpful point on the thumb that can help release the heat within the throat. But it's sensitive because near our finger, near the palms of our hands and our feet, we have more nerve endings. But if you're working with a provider that has experience with a gentle needling technique, they're going to ease you into it. There's definitely places that I'll needle that, especially for first treatment, that they really don't feel much other than like a dull, achy sensation or a warm tingling. And that's really the goal. That's the arrival of chi, where you feel that those points are stimulated. And so from my perspective, I do more of a Japanese style needling. And so I'd say most of my patients, I treat a lot of kids and teens as well. And they keep coming back. So I'll
Mm.
take that as a good sign. But it can be uncomfortable at times, especially when there's a lot of stuck energy. And so I always just one at a time walk my patients through what to expect. But no, you shouldn't be going in feeling uneasy or scared.
Sure. Well, I think your description of chi and how the needles are kind of like antennas is a really nice description of it. And I'll often have patients that I work with at Creekside Physical Therapy who ask me questions about, what do I think about acupuncture as a complementary modality or approach with the work that we're doing. And I often tell them work in the world of the biomechanical and the structural. So we're working on fascial relationships and spinal relationships and cranial relationships and visual relationships and all these sorts of things. But I'm not at least intentionally setting out to influence chi flow or bioelectricity flow. And so I think to be able to complement someone's care with a skilled acupuncturist such as yourself can be really helpful because it's working from different angles. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of patients they'll go to one practitioner with the hope and intention that that person's going to really solve all of their problems. But over the years, I've found just a lot of joy and success in working in collaboration. So people that come in and maybe they're working with physical therapy, but they also have maybe a mental health practitioner that they're working with, an acupuncturist, maybe a nutritionist. And so every one of those people can sort of give that patient really their best. And so some people will talk about, chi and it's kind of uncomfortable for them in the sense like, is this kind of new agey stuff? And they're very entrenched in the Western world. And I say, look, your heartbeat is regulated by electricity.
Hmm.
There's electricity going through your nerves at all times. There's electricity going through your brain. We can measure these things. That's not really in question. That's not in doubt. So this is just working on those levels and in those systems to help
Absolutely.
be able to balance things out and just be able to help you to have your best health. So I appreciate your description of that. And that's often how, if there's people listening right now that are like, what's chi and bioenergy and it's kind of weirds them out. I just say, look, it's not. It's in your body. And if you didn't have any electricity flowing, you would probably be in the ground. Like it would not be a good thing.
Yes,
So we want to promote that.
absolutely.
Let's talk about some of the different health concerns that you treat. What are common symptomologies that people come in with, and particularly how can acupuncture benefit women throughout their lifespan?
Yeah, beautiful. So, women's health is really my passion. I love supporting women. I call it their sacred seasons. So, we go through 7 and 8 year life cycles, and as women and men, and women have such unique opportunities as our body changes throughout our life to really amplify our health. It's a very powerful time. And in Chinese medicine, we call these our golden opportunities. There's three main ones, which are menstruation, postpartum, and menopause, which in Western medicine, menopause is the big talk right now. And it's seen as kind of like this, I don't know, doom time. Like you're like,
Mm,
no, there's no looking back when you get there. Whereas in Chinese medicine, it's such a beautiful opportunity that if we can, give ourselves more care during that time, we can actually like amplify our healing abilities. And so I love supporting women through all of those seasons. I also have a passion for fertility, but that's not always what brings women into the clinic. A lot of the times it could be migraines, digestive upset. So they're just a constant bloating or are feeling fatigued and not nourished in their body. And so my goal is really to help women feel a big aspect of the work I do is over sovereign health, so to have more autonomy over their health, but it's also to just feel more vital and good day to day. Sleep is another big one. The cool thing about Chinese medicine is because I said it's a whole system of medicine, they could be coming in for arm pain and they could be realizing, wow, this is the first week I've slept through the night every day. Like,
mm, mhm,
it's so when you're looking at the root and you're really looking at everything, because regardless of what anyone comes in for, I'm doing a full systems intake to help identify patterns. That's what Chinese medicine looks at rather than like a Western medical diagnosis. So, for instance, if a woman is coming in for a migraine, it could be a whole number of patterns in Chinese medicine depending on what their sleep, digestion, energy, everything else looks like. And so I'd say that's probably what's most commonly I support. But what's I would say most researched in acupuncture would be probably like pain or musculoskeletal conditions. But there is growing research for menstrual health, for the other sleep disturbances, mood changes, everything else that I spoke to as well.
Well, I appreciate what you talked about with regards to working with people really as whole people. So
Mhm.
many people will come in with symptoms. Let's say it's pain in the shoulder, just as an example. And in the Western world, the person that you typically will go to is just going to look at the shoulder. And they're
Mhm.
not going to appreciate any other systems for sure. They may not even look biomechanically into other places, such as your neck, your thoracic spine.
Mhm.
But what you talk about is really getting to the root of what's going on. So the symptom is the tip of the iceberg, but you could take ibuprofen for your symptoms and it might make your symptoms better, but it's certainly not going to fix the cause or the issue. And what you're describing really is trying to get down to the root of what's going on with that person so that they really can have a healing, not just sort
Mhm.
of masking symptoms.
Yes, exactly. And my nursing experience has humbled me to the fact that, our scope of practice defines how we look at medicine, right? And so, if I am in a motor vehicle accident and I have trauma, like I'm going to want a surgeon that's very skilled for that specific thing. But when it comes to especially long-term health, chronic health conditions, lifestyle managed conditions, I want someone that's going to listen to my story and know all of me because that's all of those parts matter. And like you spoke to earlier, having that team approach is ideal because everyone has their own zone of genius. And so if you can find a good, have your team, then you're really going to be supported.
How do you see acupuncture fitting in with conventional Western medicine? Do you see it as kind of the kid who's not invited to the party and, is over in the sandbox while everybody else is on the jungle gym? Or have you seen certain practitioners that are more open to it? Is it getting more acceptance? What's been your experience with that?
So I mean, from my own clinical experience, I'd say most of my practice has grown by word of mouth. And so I take that as a good sign. Once people experience it and understand it, I think then they can't wait to like share the good news, right? Of like what is available and how you can feel. But I would say it's more of a compliment than competing because, like I spoke to earlier, just having, depending on what that scope of practice is, they're going to have different strengths. And if I have a patient come in and they have something, an acute injury going on that, then I will refer them out. So it's like it's not a one size fits all, but it can be really helpful in reducing side effects. So if someone is going through chemotherapy, let's say, it can help improve their quality of life. And it really fills the gaps, I feel like, in a
Mm,
lot of where allopathic medicine maybe can't quite fully address that root cause, especially because a lot of the times the root cause is not one reason, right? It's years of lifestyle. It's suppressed emotions that play a role too. And as a nurse, I always was kind of hesitant in the beginning explaining some of this more woo-woo side of the medicine, but it's not. We're people. We're not machines. We're dynamic. We change every day depending on our environment. We're incredible. Like our bodies are incredible. And so I think when we speak to that, people can really relate to just the potential it has and how it's not one or the other. It's what is best for you given your situation. And we're all unique. So.
yeah. So when somebody comes in for a given complaint or a particular symptom, is there a bell curve about the number of visits that typically would be needed to help that person? Certainly, it depends on the condition and depends on the person, of course, but is it typically 6 sessions and a person can expect to feel significantly better? Does it take a certain amount of months? Talk a little bit about that.
That's a great question. And so, we always kind of want to identify a main concern we're working on or a main area of focus, just because then we have something to kind of scale. Whereas we are usually working on everything, but it's kind of nice to know where we're starting. And then again, it depends. It depends on the chronicity. It depends on the severity. It depends on kind of what else is going on. Does this person have wrist pain because they're typing on a computer every day and they can't avoid that? Like what are the aggravating factors? And so when we look at all of that, then my goal is to always to go for about a 50% reduction in symptoms. And I say it usually takes about 6 to 10 visits. And again, it does totally depend. I kind of coach that when so first appointment, we can talk through this a little bit later too. But after the first appointment, I go through a treatment plan. And this is where I break it down. I give the why behind, I give the patterns, and then I talk to kind of the length of treatment time. And so there's an exponential effect every time you get acupuncture. So you are like retraining your nervous system. And so the first treatment, sometimes I have folks that are really receptive and they'll get off the table and they'll say, "Wow, I feel great." And I say, the first time I say, don't, just leave it open to what to expect. And there's other times where people are like, I don't know, I took a nap, feel pretty good, but I don't really feel any different. And you're like, that's great too. Things are happening behind the scenes. And so usually after the first few visits, then we get more of an idea of what the goal they're working towards. And I'm also really honest and open about budgeting for your care as well too. When people are used to paying for their health insurance and getting coverage, not everyone can have coverage for acupuncture. And so if you're paying out of pocket, that could also affect, how often you're able to get to afford care or other factors too. And so like all of that's kind of a long answer, but it all plays a role. But I'd say 6 to 10 visits is really when you get the most significant shift. And I usually like to see patients weekly. Some other practices will see them more than once a week. I think it works best from my experience to see them weekly for those kind of 6 to 10 weeks. And then we taper off from there. And my ideal patient after that is to see them monthly, maybe quarterly, and just at the change of seasons, check in, keep them feeling good, and then just keeping accountable for those lifestyle changes and shifts and supporting each other through those different seasons.
Yeah, I think that's great. A lot of people probably that 6 to 10 visit probably resonates. They may have seen another practitioner kind of in that ballpark of things. So that certainly seems within kind of normal ranges with what somebody might have experienced in the past. So, what about after the acupuncture session? Are there things that you'll typically have people do? Are there herbs that they take, or is there movements that they should do? Should they avoid certain things? What would you say about that?
Yeah, great question. So aftercare is pretty simple. You might feel a little bit drowsy or a little more relaxed, but usually I say once you get out in the sunshine and fresh air and get moving, your chi is kind of is circulating again and you're feeling more alert and alive. But I always say try not to do anything too strenuous afterwards. When you get acupuncture, you're putting your body from that flight or fight stage back to the rest digest, to the parasympathetic. And so we want to make sure that they can stay in that and or get the most benefit from that. And so I'll say, if you've had a conversation you don't want to have and you're holding off on it, like don't do it right after acupuncture and
Mm.
stress yourself out, or yeah, don't do too strenuous of exercise. But it is great to move. I always say, that night I kind of give them homework where I said, if it's nice out, like take your shoes off and go walk around in the grass for a little bit, ground yourself, spend some time outside, take the dogs for a walk, however that may look for that person. Movement is great. Qigong is a great way to complement acupuncture, which is it is a movement that helps stimulate and move our chi, and or yoga or something very gentle. And then the next time they take a shower or a bath, I also advise that if they add some sea salt in, salt is a conduit, it moves energy. And so that can also be really helpful for anything that's kind of surfacing in the body, especially if you're working through a pathogen. So if you get like cold or flu-like symptoms and that's what you're coming in for, that can help move that out of the body too.
What about like an Epsom salt bath?
Yeah, that would be
That'd
great
be a good
too.
one?
Hmm.
Awesome. What about herbs? Do you do anything
Yeah.
with herbs and that sort of additional care, that type of additional medicine?
Yeah, so it's usually a layered approach. We kind of start with acupuncture because it's a great place to start to get your body to feel safe again and to get you to kind of be more receptive to some other changes. And then herbs is a great complement. So herbal medicine, I like to look at it as like you're taking acupuncture internally every day. So
Mm,
it stimulates kind of you're working on the same goals of moving and regulating your chi and your fluids. And herbs work best with um, a good solid nutritional foundation. And so if you're taking herbs without that, the herbs don't have anything to really bind and work with because they work along with your body. And so kind of depending on that person's goals, we may start adding herbs in right away, or that could be something that we could talk to later. Food therapy is like a more gentler approach to herbs. So there's some foods that are both herbs and food, like ginger, for
mm,
instance.
mhm,
So just to kind of give you an example, if a woman is coming in with bloating and fatigue, especially after eating, ginger will be one of the first things I'll have them add into their diet. So I'll say, let's just try for this first week. Let's cut out all the cold iced beverages and iced coffee you're drinking every day, and let's just try room temperature or warm with a slice of ginger in it.
mm, mhm,
And that energetically warms and supports the middle of the body and the digestive organ systems. And that, if we think about metabolism from your science class, right? Things metabolize quicker at a warmer environment. And so I usually have a good way of kind of bringing it down to earth and explaining it like that. There's a kind of an easy explanation for this. And I see such significant improvement with even just simple things like that.
That's great. I like the simplicity of that. We can get ginger at just about any grocery store that you're going to go to for sure. What about something like brain fog? Is there a typical herb or food that you might give to somebody to help with that type of symptom?
Yeah, so going back to the pattern diagnosis I spoke to earlier, it would depend on that person's patterns,
Sure.
what herbs are going to be more specific. Now, there are herbs called adaptogens, and I think these are getting more popular and mainstream. And so, like, there's a lot of mushrooms that have these properties that adapt to what your body needs. So, lion's mane is a popular one that shows I think is it neurotropic properties or it helps stimulate the brain. And so some of those can be really supportive as well. There's also so much out there that's like even beyond my scope. And so I'm learning from my patients every day and I'm always looking something up and refreshing my own knowledge as to what's beneficial, but it's fun. There's so much, our nature is incredible and has so much to offer us. And so herbs can be, I mean, I'm looking out my window right now and I'm like, we have so many beautiful plants out here that support us in our own environment. So once you kind of go down the rabbit hole, there's no going back. It's fun. Herbs are our allies.
You talked about adaptogens. I'm glad you brought that up. That is kind of a buzzword now, right? They
Hmm.
talk about a drink or a supplement, whether it's, AG1 people talk about all the time or
Hmm.
different things, different drinks full of adaptogens. So is adaptogen like the mushroom family of things, or what all falls under that umbrella of
So that
adaptogen?
that is that's a property within the plants. So to give you
Mm,
just a brief overview,
mhm,
um, we look at both like food therapy and herbs in different properties. So their temperature, the channels in which they travel throughout the body, so they'll affect different areas of the body. Like green tea, for instance, travels up to the head, and so that's why it gives a lot of people more energy and clarity. And then we'll look at the organ systems they support, and they'll have like specific temperatures and such too. Now, adaptogens can vary. That's the thing, is like there's mint, for instance. Everyone knows mint is cooling, right? Like you think of mint gum or like
Mm.
peppermint. You put a piece in your mouth and it has that cooling property. Peppers are spicy, right? Now, an adaptogen can change properties. So that's really where that
Mm.
term comes from. So it's
Got
not
it.
like anything specific, it's just that they can change properties.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's helpful. How has acupuncture changed your own personal outlook about health and aging?
Hmm. Um, I'd say like I take much better care of myself than I did in my 20s, just personally.
Mm.
Like
Hmm.
it's it gives you so much power back. Like acupuncture itself, like the modality is it's every treatment is different. It's you are exchanging energy between two people when you're also getting treatments. So like I'll go to a different provider because I'll feel a different way about it. But what I love is the medicine as a whole. Like when you're getting acupuncture, it's not just looking at the nervous system. It's not just like we said, like it's not just one, you're not in one lane. You're looking at you're validating that person's stressful week or lack of sleep or where they need extra support. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of going around roundabout way here, but it's, I think it's wonderful when I see women that say, I didn't know it was possible to feel this good.
Mm.
And also to identify maybe where things started, if they're really like have been looking for answers and they're like, but why do I feel this way? It gives us an opportunity to kind of unpack some of those layers and say, like, this is not like there's no shame or guilt around this, but like like for instance, a lot of women I'll say, like, in your postpartum phase, like you went back to work in 2 weeks. Your body was still healing and recovering. And so we're just seeing those effects kind of amplified after years of stress and different exposures. So sometimes just like validating that no, it's not normal to feel this way. Might be common, but it's not normal, and you can feel better. And so, like, it just giving that power back that, like, they come to me, I'd say, like, more for like kind of coaching or education, because then once they understand themselves and they know how to eat to, let's say, different parts of their menstrual cycle, or they know how to support themselves through the different seasons of eating in the winter versus in the summer, how that makes their body feel good, then they have this power back within themselves and they know how to better care for themselves because that's how things used to be, right? Before, like
Yeah,
you'd go to a provider when you had an acute condition, but otherwise you kind of doctored yourself. And we always looked to our environment to support us because it's all here, it's all around us.
sure. How you mentioned briefly that you'll go to different practitioners, maybe depending on what you want to get out of them. How different is acupuncture between practitioners? Does it vary widely, or is it fairly consistent?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously, there's going to be kind of overlapping modalities or theories based on the education we received. So I went to school in Minnesota at Northwestern Health Sciences University, and so that is a lot of traditional Chinese medicine. But then I studied in Japan and Vietnam, and so I have that experience as well too. So that changes how I approach things in different ways. Also, we all have our own kind of niches and, um, unique aspects of health that we enjoy treating. So, like if I have an injury that, the musculoskeletal injury, I might seek someone who has more of an orthopedic training, let's say, that looks more at form and function, similar to your practice. Whereas if I had the sudden loss of a loved one and I'm feeling a lot of grief, I may see someone that I mean, Chinese medicine looks at mind, body, and spirit, but we all
Hmm.
kind of like will tend towards one or the other, I feel like.
Sure.
So I'll look at someone that maybe has more of a spiritual practice that can help support my emotions in that sense too. So I always recommend like interviewing your acupuncturist first. Just make sure they're a good fit for you. And I offer consultation for this reason because I want to make sure that I'm a good fit for them. And I'm also quick to refer if I feel like someone else may be a better fit for them.
That's great. What would you recommend if somebody is going to interview their acupuncturist? What sort of questions should they ask?
That's a great question. So I'd say like style, and I'd say if they're coming for a specific reason, I would say, to ask them if they have supported patients for that condition in the past and what their experience has been like, and just to kind of hear their story. There's not necessarily a right or wrong question, but just kind of hearing more about what their experience is like what might my treatment look like if I'm coming in for this, just kind of those open-ended questions to hear their approach. And yeah, I can't really think of anything specific, but
Feel it out.
yes,
Get a
feel it
get a
out.
good vibe of the person. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, feel their energy, right? That's what you're working with. So,
Yeah. Over the last couple of years, I've probably mentioned this on a couple podcasts, but for most of my life, I've made my decisions almost exclusively with my mind, right? Sort of pro and con list and identifying advantages or opportunities or threats. But in the more recent years, I've really tried to make more decisions based off how I feel
mm,
about either a person or an opportunity or a direction. And it's amazing when I listen to that voice, whatever that is, that gut feeling, as we
hmm
often say, it's never steered me wrong. And I think probably everybody listening has at least one experience, if not many, where you walk into a room and you just instantly connect with somebody and you're fast friends and you get along well, and it may go from there. Or you walk into a room or you get on a city bus or something like that, and there's somebody sitting there and you're just like, oh, I don't know what's going on with this person, but there's bad energy around that person. I'm sure we've all had that. And so I think tuning into that, at least for me personally, has been a really helpful thing for making better decisions in my life in the recent years. So I like what you said.
and
Tune
I'll
into
quick
the
speak to you
energy.
too, and for women especially, our intuition is one of our superpowers. Like
Mm,
that's just part of the feminine. And so one practice I like to do is when you're resting with the needles. Sometimes, like I could never meditate until I started to receive acupuncture, and I see
mm,
the same for a lot of my patients because it's just hard to get out of that monkey brain. And so when they're laying on the table, I'll just walk them through a gentle practice where they'll do a body scan and then they'll just observe. So they'll observe for a sensation, an emotion, a thought. It could be, oh, I have to add that to my grocery list. I mean, whatever it is, I have them just recognize it and breathe in while they're silently saying in their mind, allow. And as they exhale, I have them say release. And this is something that for listeners, that it's a simple enough practice you can do when you're going to bed at night. Just check in, take 2 minutes, and just see what surfaces and comes because that taps you back into your intuition.
I like that a lot. I think that's great. Let's talk a little bit about the community that you've built specifically to support women, sovereign support, as you've called it. Can you describe what that is, what the genesis of that was, and who it's for, and how it can help?
Oh, thank you. So, Sovereign Support was birthed soon after the birth of my daughter, who's 5 months old today. It was kind of just like came to me in the middle of the night as an idea of bringing community together of women that are ready to take radical responsibility for their health. And so I feel like there's so much in the wellness industry now that everything is just kind of getting so watered down and washed out, and it's just the crowdsourcing and the like, what am I supposed to do for myself? Like just Googling every symptom. And so I brought Sovereign Support together as a private online community with other practitioners that are have kind of the same aligned vision of what it means to take self-responsibility and have autonomy over your health. So I think of the word agency. So agency is like when everything's stacked against you, feeling like you are resourced. And so I wanted to create a community. I always felt like I was already a connector. Like I always was just like, oh, you need to meet this person or you need to, connect with this person. And so I think it's just kind of playing to my strengths and that I already have been doing that, but then just doing it in a more intimate container where women feel like they can share their story as medicine and to just validate and hear one another and to kind of help keep ourselves accountable for the small but very potent lifestyle shifts that are necessary to support ourselves. Making sure we're not only setting boundaries, we think of boundaries with other people, but boundaries amongst ourselves is so important too, and how we care for ourselves. And so it's a paid for private online community, and part of the community is also I kind of created these 12-week self-guided journeys around a women's sacred season. So right now I have 4 sacred seasons in there, which are menstruation or living with to your rhythms. So it could be a woman who's no longer having her menstrual cycle, but also learning how to live in season with the moon cycle, with the environment, with the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, and how to support themselves best through those seasons. And then fertility and conception is another one, pregnancy and postpartum, and then motherhood and beyond, I kind of call it. So, part of that is through my own lived experience. I have 2 children now. But also, it's just giving women those little more intimate containers amongst each season that can bring them together with women that are going through that same time period in life.
So is it an ongoing community that people can join anytime? Is it
Yes.
something that has a defined start and end? Talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. So it is evergreen, so that you can join anytime. We have a free 7 day, we call it a Sovereign Self-Care Challenge that you can join to give you a little taste of the community, and that you can join at any time. And it's just a space to kind of you pick 3 different kind of self-care items that can be anything from having a cup of herbal tea that day to getting to bed early enough, just different ways of how we can kind of mother ourselves, I say. And so that's a great way to kind of keep yourself accountable and to get ideas of what other women are doing to supporting themselves, and also just to bring light to what we're already doing and not acknowledging, right? And so that's kind of a free entry in. And then there's a monthly or an annual fee to be within the community. So my goal is to eventually have it be kind of like your resource. You'll come in and search for a certain topic, and it'll allow you to see where women that take responsibility for the health or other practitioners that maybe kind of specialize in that area of care to get you connected with. And then the 12-week guided journeys are you can start at any time as well too. So there's not really like an onboarding time. And then you can enter and leave as it best supports you. Yeah, it's just to really help women feel like they're not alone through these, navigating these health transitions.
Yeah, I really like that. Are there in-person events or
Yeah,
opportunities within that?
thank you. So it is, I do have a few women from different parts of the US and probably soon to be different parts of the world joining. And so there are right now monthly support calls that are just kind of your opportunity to ask a provider. I'll have guests and guest speakers, and then the other practitioners I have in will also be sharing their resources. And so there's a lot of like resource sharing in that sense. Um, but then my goal is to get some in real life meetups as well too as the community grows.
Awesome. Well, I think it's just a wonderful idea, and again, I appreciate that you're working to your strengths, your unique gifts that you as a person have identified, and you're working into that. You're using that. I think that's a wonderful thing. So.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about where people can find more information, either about the Sovereign Support community and if people are interested in working with you at your acupuncture clinic.
Thank you. So the name of my practice is Wild Integrative Health, and I am working 2 days a week out of a clinic space in Burnsville, Minnesota, as an acupuncturist. And then, so my website is wildintegrativehealth.com. That's also my Instagram tag or handle as well. And then the sovereign support information is it's on the website as well too. So if you go to wildintegrativehealth.com, you'll see you can book, and then the second spot is sovereign support. And also for those that maybe this is outside of, if my niche is outside of what could support you, I have lots of great resources too. I just love to share as a nurse. I always want to explain the rationale. So just even like I've got a blog and different resources, and just even reading through my frequently asked questions answers a lot of the kind of mystical questions about acupuncture. And so I love sharing those resources as well.
Awesome. Well, wildintegrativehealth.com is the website. I hope you check it out if you have any questions or you're interested in working with Sonja. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate being able to learn more about acupuncture and how it can fit in with all of our lives with our goal of being healthier and being able to age in the best possible manner we can.
All right. Thanks so much, Galen.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Well, thanks for listening to the Better with Age podcast with my guest today, Dr. Sonja Murray. If you're interested in working with Dr. Murray or learning more about her practice, you can visit her website at www.wildintegrativehealth.com. You can also find her on Instagram at wild.integrative.health. If you're interested in learning more about the Better with Age program designed to empower women to reclaim their health and vitality through expert-guided exercise and nutrition, check out www.betterwithage.online. Here you'll learn more about the program, what all is involved with it, and a lot of other questions on how we help women build bone density, strength, muscle mass, and overall reclaim their vitality. Until next time, this is Galen signing off, wishing you all the best.